Okay, good morning. I got a couple of accidents we'll cover to start with this morning. The first one, there was a press release sent out. This was early Saturday morning, about 3:40 a.m. Police were sent to the intersection near Innovation and Career for what appeared to be an accident. We're still working on exactly what happened, but it appears that the victim in this case was struck by a motor vehicle. We believe that we have identified the suspect vehicle. No arrests have been made at this point. Still ongoing investigation. As detectives have been investigating this, one of the things that they are using is cameras, surveillance cameras and traffic cameras. And they believe that there's a possibility there may have been some witnesses to this. So if anybody had information, if they saw anything unusual that time of morning, we'd like them to call police or Crime Stoppers. I can give you the victim's name. The victim is a 28-year-old woman from Sioux Falls. Her first name is Veronica, Veronica. Middle is Lynn, Lynn. Last is Honkamp Martin, Honkamp hyphen Martin is Martin. Like I said, 28 from Sioux Falls. The investigation is progressing, but there's still a lot of work to do, and so we're hoping that people will have some information that can help guide that investigation and figure out exactly what happened. Any questions on that?
Do you have any info on if that was, weather related or other factors at play there?
No, really everything that's surrounding that accident, we're still working on trying to figure out. So weather certainly may be a factor in it, but we just don't have enough information at this point to say if it is or is not. And the other, we had a pedestrian train fatal accident that happened. I don't have a whole ton of information, but it was Sunday around 7 p.m. at 8th Street and Weber. We did have some witnesses to this accident, and that really helped to exactly explain what happened. But there was a slow-moving train that was crossing the road, and we had a pedestrian that jumped the train, apparently maybe trying to cross the train. But that woman fell from the train and was run over by the train and died on scene. So we've identified the victim. It was a 29-year-old woman, transient from Sioux Falls. On the log, I really don't have much. The aggravated assaults, we had 2 of those. One of them was a threat. The other was a late report. The burglaries, a few of those, nothing really of note. Houses and garages were mostly entered. Disorderlies are reports. Family offenses, frauds are reports. Nothing big from the larcenies. The lost child was created in error. It was actually found. Sex offenses are reports, and a few unattended deaths, but nothing suspicious with any of those. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, just answered what you had heard about the woman and the train.
Oh, he just talked about that?
Yeah.
Okay. The woman that her body was found possible hit and run. Can you talk at all about just what the responsibilities are of a driver regarding pedestrians, and maybe a word to pedestrians about crossing in unmarked crosswalks, that type of thing?
A driver's responsibility with pedestrians?
Yeah, like a driver is supposed to yield to pedestrians, right?
Well, it depends if the pedestrian's in a crosswalk is really what it comes out. So yeah, so there's 2 kinds of crosswalks. There's a marked crosswalk and an unmarked crosswalk. So essentially what that means is anytime you have an intersection, that corner, that curb to curb is a crosswalk area. Sometimes they're marked by white lines on the ground, sometimes they're not. If a pedestrian is in that area, and I guess one of the other things that may complicate things is if there's a stoplight in that area or not. I'll start there. So if there's a stoplight, the pedestrian needs to follow the signals and cross when the walk signal is going. If there's no traffic controls and a person is crossing the road, motorists need to yield to the pedestrian in the crosswalk. And so Sometimes you'll see those on main roads, but frequently it would be like a residential area would be a good example of an unmarked crosswalk. If somebody's crossing corner to corner, motorists need to yield to pedestrians. If a pedestrian is crossing outside of that crosswalk, the pedestrian then needs to yield to the motorist. Does that answer the questions?
It sure does. And then just maybe a word of caution to pedestrians, not that it was her fault or anything that she got hit that we know of, but like for instance, last week I was downtown and there was 3 lanes of traffic, one way. A vehicle stopped all of a sudden and I'm like, what's going on? And then I realized there's pedestrians trying to cross in the middle of the block. And do you want to talk about safety issues regarding trying to cross when you shouldn't be?
Yeah, I mean, there are protections allowed to pedestrians, so there's times if you're crossing in a crosswalk or a crosswalk area that you're protected, but the pedestrians still need to be aware of traffic. Just because you have the right to cross and motorists are supposed to yield to you doesn't mean that the motorist is paying attention. And so there is a chance, we've seen this before in the past, where motorists haven't necessarily been paying attention and struck a pedestrian. So, you know, anytime a person is hit by a car, it's not a good situation. Sometimes we have fatal accidents, sometimes we have serious injuries. Sometimes people are lucky and they're not injured. But pedestrians need to use caution when they're crossing a road, especially if they're in the middle of the block. There's times when they're able to do that fine, but they still have to watch for traffic. And we've arrested people for doing stuff like that before, interfering with vehicular traffic. We've seen a lot of accidents when people are crossing the road in the middle of in the block and not paying attention to traffic. There could be other accidents if some vehicle stops for a pedestrian and somebody behind them isn't paying attention, they could rear end that car. So there's a lot of things that could happen with that, but ultimately it really involves pedestrians paying attention, crossing where they're supposed to, watching for traffic, motorists paying attention to the road. And I mean, if we get the 2 of those going, hopefully we don't have any issues.
And forgive me if you already mentioned this, any word on finding that driver with the potential hit and run?
Yeah, we already talked about that. So the
Okay.
car has been found. We're still continuing the investigation. Yep. Anything else?
Going back to that first Saturday morning press release, were we able to confirm that she was in the crosswalk?
That's still going to be part of the investigation. Yeah, we don't know exactly where she was in relation to the car on the roadway. I mean, all that stuff will hopefully we'll be able to make some sense of that and figure out exactly what happened. But it really just depends on how the investigation unfolds.
Any thoughts about how long she was there before the call came in?
Now, that'll all be part of the investigation. Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, the investigator's been making progress on that, but not enough where we're able to say definitively exactly where people were, the time frame, what exactly took place. We'll have to wait for that investigation to be finished. Anything else?
Sorry to go back to the train, but did you say she tried to jump onto the train?
So it was a slow-moving train, and witnesses saw the victim jump onto the train. It seemed to be that she was trying to cross to get to the other side. So
And she was trying to do that by going up onto the train?
going onto the
to other
train
side.
and then apparently trying to cross over, and at some point in time, she fell.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? All right.